So, Mr. James, how long have you been keeping a calendar like this?
Since I've been about 25, 26 years old.
Say Ms. Coward has cheated on you in the past, and you argue you not only have good reason to doubt paternity.
Well, it first started with me actually seeing her around the apartment complex that we both live in to get her number, to see if she was interested in me, anything of that nature. Well, of course, she never called, and I felt a little bad about it, and I took my child again and asked her whether or not, she would like to have a drink with me.
We started off in a sexual relationship, but quickly it turned into a relationship. When I found out I was pregnant, he originally bought a home pregnancy test because we didn't take any precautions.
I have evidence that I keep on the calendar basically about her cycle. Different women that I've slept with.
The dates you were intimate with women?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And also a record of their monthly cycles?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
This description unfolds inside a legal space where personal history becomes legal evidence and private mistakes transform into public record. Judge Lauren Lake presides over a courtroom in which emotions, legal standards, relationship psychology, and constitutional fairness collide. There are no dramatizations here. Only the clear, direct legal atmosphere where paternity, fidelity, and family survival are tested in front of law, procedure, and the tight scrutiny of DNA diagnostics. The courtroom is not focused on theatrics but on meaning. It is a judicial arena where the relationship between law and justice must be interpreted through legislation, evidentiary burdens, adverse inference in Evidence Act interpretations, and genetic science. Both sides arrive with testimony, timelines, calendars, and personal narratives that stretch beyond hurt feelings and into the deeper order of jurisprudence, where the concept of justice in jurisprudence is applied to very real, very fragile families. Under Lauren Lake's direction, nothing is allowed to drift into emotional chaos. Everything must be supported by fact, statute, and provable truth. Parties entering this courtroom carry more than heartbreak. They carry DNA test cheating stories, adoption stories, full episodes, questions of child support, parental responsibility, and the emotional tremors people experience when a scientific truth stands against their romantic memory. They walk in believing love should be enough, but they soon learn that in parentage law, evidence stage and divorce case processes are not softened by sentiment. Genetic truth outvotes emotional attachment. Testimonies function not as character defenses, but as traceable accounts of conduct, timelines, and intimate decisions that now matter to legal status, custody, and future obligations recognized by state authority, and, if necessary, Supreme Court appeals. Judge Lauren Lake introduces every element with clarity, ensuring the participants understand that paternity is not philosophically negotiable in law. Regardless of who hoped, who feared, who lied, or who forgave, the science will verify biological ties with the objectivity of laboratory evidence. The setting does not celebrate heartbreak but celebrate recovery testimonies, where accountability is transformative rather than punitive. In this courtroom, recovery does not refer merely to substance programs, but to emotional restoration after deception, mistrust, or abandoned truth. This legal stage, unlike fictionalized accounts, acknowledges the cultural influence of modern listening habits such as Truth Changes Everything podcast, the Game Changing Attorney podcast, and the Divorce Course podcast, where legal literacy has become accessible, and people believe they understand rights and wrongs. Yet here, under Judge Lauren Lake, they witness that listening to legal content and living legal consequences are two vastly different emotional experiences. Facing evidence is heavier than hearing opinions about evidence. The individuals present bring timelines filled with broken agreements, disputed conception windows, calendar entries, digital messages, and emotional faithful claims fractured by retrospective doubt. They do not shout or posture for cinematic effect. They answer for actions taken in privacy, now illuminated by DNA test. People regret taking procedures. Many walked in thinking DNA would save their romantic life. Instead, the analysis exposes how relationships collapse not because of biology, but because of withheld honesty. The court acknowledges that the DNA process is often described as salvation by those hopping for proof, but simultaneously described as devastation by those whose secrets are not defensible once genetic patterns are read and matched. The judge does not shame, she clarifies. She does not humiliate, she interprets statutory obligation and parental continuity. This is the heart of relationship between law and justice. Justice requires proof, while law requires structure, and Judge Lauren Lake balances both in a tone that refuses cruelty, yet demands certainty. Family members and partners present in this hearing experience both relief and threat. Some want the biological truth to prove fidelity. Others fear it because proof might remove them from the narrative they built. Many regret participating not because DNA was incorrect, but because DNA was uncomfortably correct. This courtroom illustrates that regret often surfaces not at the announcement, but at the realization that no further denial is defensible under written results. This hearing emphasizes parental acknowledgement, future child welfare, long-term emotional well-being, and legal financial mandates, including potential future child support hearings. The judge does not allow romantic confusion to cloud the identity rights of the child. Biology does not ask for permission to be revealed. The genetic link is a constitutional truth recognized under Family Establishment Acts, paternity statutes, and the rules of civil procedure. When Judge Lauren Lake confirms paternity, that confirmation does not merely relieve suspicion. It resets the future. It answers the core legal question upon which custody, nomming, financial support, and guardianship depend. It informs the law's acknowledgement of the child's lineage, and it imposes obligations that no emotional ending or romantic dissolution can reverse. If DNA does not match, the consequences shift. Emotional betrayal may be forgiven by people, but legal obligations must be renegotiated or vacated based on biological identity. Throughout this description, the courtroom atmosphere mirrors national legal frameworks and parental establishment discussions found in trending media channels like Truth Changes Everything podcast, the Divorce Course podcast, and the Game Changing Attorney podcast, but those are merely interpretive conversations. Here, under Judge Lauren Lake, interpretation is not the purpose, resolution is. Courtrooms do not debate paternity, they finalize it. The participants stand not only for their pride but for the child's future legal clarity. The outcome determines which name is recorded, which parent assumes responsibility, and how the child will later understand family truth. For those who feared the test because they sensed it threatened their constructed story, the judge's firm but compassionate declaration reflects a judicial truth. Biology is not negotiable. Every word spoken before Judge Lauren Lake becomes part of the official record, shaping custody arguments, trust reconstruction, and whether adverse inference in Evidence Act reasoning will apply when one parent refuses transparency. She protects not the adult ego, but the minor's right to identity without distortion. In this legal world, secrecy collapses not through accusation but through certified laboratory fact. The truth has no animosity. It merely identifies genetic inheritance. People often confess, validate, deny, and philosophize, but only DNA concludes. Those present in court learn that while heartbreak is emotional, paternity is statutory. The science cannot be negotiated by apology. This continuation remains inside the same judicial frame where private relationships, contested conception timelines, and conflicting stories are processed through evidentiary rules rather than emotional intentions. Judge Lauren Lake maintains a standard of clarity that separates suspicion from admissible fact. What appears to outsiders as an ordinary paternity dispute becomes, within this chamber, a multi-layer legal evaluation involving biological identity, parent-child legal contracts, and the ethical obligation to ensure children are not raised under false lineage. At this point, the courtroom has moved beyond narrative explanation and entered the stabilized phase of legal interpretation. Each participant now understands the gravity of their statements, the sworn oath's weight, and the implications that are not symbolic but enforceable. The judge uses statutory authority, not tone or emotion, to ground the parties in the structure of family law as it intersects with biological evidence. She references not merely justice as a word, but as a relationship between law and justice, embedded within an actual judicial structure that protects minors from identity confusion and adults from unregulated parental claims. With the DNA test people regret taking dynamic intensifying, the court acknowledges that regret usually does not arise from false results but from accurate ones. The science becomes a mirror, reflecting the truth participants hoped could remain buried under private explanation. The evidence stage and divorce case framework is echoed here because even when couples are not formally dissolving marriage, the emotional divorce, trust separation, fidelity collapse, truth withdrawal has already taken form. The court does not litigate heartbreak, it verifies lineage. Judge Lauren Lake emphasizes that legal acknowledgement of a child is not about whether adults loved each other during conception, but whether they will abide by the laws protecting their biological offspring thereafter. The child support implications are not framed as punishment, but as the structured responsibility assigned to biological parents according to statutory guidelines. The determination also impacts inheritance law, health history access, citizenship filings, and future guardianship need. Under this judicial reasoning, the court ensures that children are recognized not as emotional extensions, but as rights-bearing individuals. Here, emotional testimony now shifts into documentary validation. Calendars, medical records, hospital documentation, and DNA laboratory reports present timelines stronger than spoken recollections. While many parties previously relied on verbal memory, the legal environment demands traceable accuracy. Feelings, though important, cannot amend statutory structure. A parent who believed loyalty could override science learns the truth of the courtroom's principle. Genetic evidence is the final chapter, not a negotiable prologue. The setting also mirrors the thematic discussions from contemporary broadcasting, such as Truth Changes Everything podcast, the Game Changing Attorney podcast, and the Divorce Course podcast. But here the conversations are no longer theoretical. In this space, legal literacy is not absorbed passively. It is applied directly with consequences that redefine family identity. Individuals who once consumed legal storytelling now experience legal verification. The concept of justice in jurisprudence is not an academic subject, but a lived outcome. Some participants quietly recognize the parallel between this moment and celebrate recovery testimonies, not because addiction was involved, but because recovery itself, emotional, relational, and ethical, must begin once denial is dismantled. Recovery in this sense means rebuilding trust, redefining parental cooperation, and honoring the child's truth without revising it for comfort. Judge Lauren Lake does not allow blame to overshadow responsibility. Whether someone acted out of anger, retaliation, insecurity, or distraction, the biological result remains fixed. In paternity hearings, intention does not rewrite DNA. The court's job is not to punish romantic imperfection, but to ensure that children live under factual parentage rather than assumption. It is here, in this rigor, that the legal definition of family stands firmer than the emotional one. When the DNA truth finally enters record, it does not target the adults, it protects the child. The court's deeper work becomes evident, ensuring no child grows up unsure of biological connection, medical lineage, cultural inheritance, or legal parent. Whether families remain intact, heal, dissolve, or reconfigure, the child's identity receives judicial confirmation that cannot be revoked by regret. The truth, once pronounced, becomes permanent. This moment also reflects on DNA test cheating stories commonly sensationalized online, but Judge Lauren Lake reframes them as identity cases rather than scandal entertainment. She removes narrative spectacle and reinstates legal dignity. The genetic answer is not gossip, it is constitutional. By placing biology above blame, she ensures that every case becomes a restoration of the child's lawful origin rather than a spectacle of adult conflict. For those who feared that DNA might unravel their emotional ties, the ruling delivers clarity. Emotional bonds can remain if adults choose humility, but legal bonds must be grounded in genetic fact. If someone hoped to retain parental status without biological connection, the law clarifies that emotional parenting may continue, but financial and identity responsibilities attach only to verified biological lineage unless subsequently reaffirmed through adoption. If adoption becomes necessary, the court treats it under codified adoption stories' full episodes frameworks, applying rigorous background evaluation, consent, and procedural verification. Lauren Lake's approach does not shatter families, it reorganizes them according to truth. In some outcomes, the confirmation strengthens couples who nearly separated under suspicion. In others, it formalizes separation with dignity rather than bitterness. In every outcome, the child's future identity is protected from distortion. Her judicial voice emphasizes that truth is not the enemy of love, but the foundation of rightful parenthood. Emotional certainty without biological verification remains a fracture waiting to reopen. Once verified, parental roles can no longer be debated, modified, or withdrawn at personal convenience. Law does not bend to discomfort. Truth is recognized as a necessity, not a preference. The courtroom environment now settles into a legal stillness layered with finality. The parents or alleged parents stand with clarity about their future obligations, their authority to claim or relinquish parental title, and their right to pursue custody, visitation, surname amendments, or support adjustments. The truth has redrawn the family map. This final section continues within the same controlled judicial structure, where Judge Lauren Lake transforms emotional revelations into enforceable legal clarity. The courtroom is no longer a place of speculation or relational defense. It is now a space of resolution, execution of law, and the establishment of forward pathways under documented truth. Once the DNA test has spoken, every participant stands before the court redefined not by what they felt, hoped, or believed, but by what is scientifically and legally verifiable. The underlying theme here reflects the universal understanding circulated through legal storytelling platforms such as Truth Changes Everything podcast, the Divorce Course podcast, and the Game Changing Attorney podcast. Yet the distinction remains that media discusses law while Judge Lauren Lake applies it. The biological result is not a story moment. It is a legally binding shift that alters surnames, custody potential, financial responsibility, parental decision-making rights, and each child's future access to accurate medical history. Participants who once approached the court hopping to prove loyalty or punish betrayal are brought back to the deeper legal core. Paternity is not about adult conflict, but about the protection and recognition of a child's rightful identity. Emotional regret, although acknowledged, cannot outweigh the relationship between law and justice. In the long-standing philosophical frame of jurisprudence, this is the embodiment of the concept of justice in jurisprudence, truth accepted not because it is easy, but because it is required. In this closing stage, the courtroom demonstrates how DNA cases expose the patterns of human decision-making: secrecy, retaliation, assumptions, avoidance, longing, reconciliation, and denial. Yet law cannot process emotion alone. It demands structure. Judge Lauren Lake therefore converts personal choice into legal clarity without cruelty and without avoidance. She does not diminish the heartbreak. She places the child at the center of resolution, ensuring that no adult narrative ever outranks developmental stability, identity consistency, or parental accountability. The verdict, now officially entered, becomes the foundational document through which all future matters must proceed. If the tested individual is confirmed as the biological parent, legal recognition aligns with biological inheritance, and the court emphasizes continuous responsibility: financial, emotional, and custodial. If the tested person is not the biological parent, then adverse inference in Evidence Act reasoning may apply if any party withheld relevant truth, and the court clarifies pathways for amendment, substitution of parental record, or pursuit of additional testing if another potential father is identified. In many cases, individuals leave this courtroom with unexpected relief. For some, the fear that they would be legally tied to a child they did not biologically father is replaced by judicial clarity. For others, the fear that they might lose parental identity is replaced by confirmation stronger than memory or assumption. For those whose relationships implode under the revealed truth, this moment feels less like punishment and more like the unavoidable moment of honesty. Whether they remain together or separate, the child now stands protected by documented, indisputable identity. Reflecting on trends from DNA test cheating stories online or episodes of adoption stories full episodes, it becomes evident that what the outside world treats as spectacle is here grounded in structure. This courtroom never frames paternity revelation as entertainment. Under Judge Lauren Lake, DNA becomes the factual guardian of a child's future rights. The procedural tone is calm, not sensational. Every recorded word is evidence. Every biological answer is a legal key. For couples or former couples who entered this space believing love alone made a family, the court clarifies that while emotional dedication matters deeply, legal parenthood requires confirmed biological linkage or an official adoption process. The future of the child cannot rest on untested claims, unclear conception timelines, or inconsistent explanations. The law ensures that no identity stands on assumption. The judge further acknowledges that DNA test people regret taking is often a misunderstanding of emotional timing. Many do not regret testing because the child deserves truth. They regret that their romantic storyline was not aligned with that truth. Yet here, romantic discomfort is secondary to identity security. The laboratory result is not designed to destroy trust. It is designed to prevent lifelong confusion. Legal obligations such as potential child support orders are not framed as punishment for adult miscalculations, but as statutory fulfillment of biological duty. These obligations are not optional, adjustable by personal preference, or delayed because of emotional strain. They proceed under state authority, prioritizing the child over the adult. This is the point at which parental maturity becomes measured not by relationship longevity, but by legal accountability. In cases where confirmed biological connection is absent, the judge outlines how future pathways may involve reestablishing personal identity, pursuing co-parenting structures with the verified biological parent, or thoughtfully exploring adoption if the non-biological partner wishes to remain legally recognized. Here, celebrate recovery testimonies apply not in the context of addiction, but in the restoration of truth-based living. Recovery means learning to live without denial, bitterness, blame, or narrative distortion. It means acknowledging the child is not the symbol of betrayal, but the center of protection. What appeared at first to be a romantic courtroom dispute ends instead as a constitutional affirmation of identity rights. Judge Lauren Lake ensures that every adult leaves with the understanding that while relationships begin and end based on emotion, parental status cannot. She requires dignity as the closing tone. No one leaves ridiculed. Everyone leaves educated. This is the core difference between this court and informal public judgment. Under her judicial guidance, biological truth becomes not a weapon but a stabilizer. The family may reconfigure, but it will do so around factual lineage rather than uncertainty. This clarity serves not only the present but the child's entire future adulthood, eliminating the silent question that destabilizes personal development. Who am I in relation to those who raised me? Here, that question is answered with law-backed genetic certainty. In the final understanding, Judge Lauren Lake does not simply declare paternity. She closes identity gaps, removes doubt, and restores lawful family definition. Whether the test confirms biological connection or disproves it, the ruling stands as legal architecture that will outlive the emotional moment. The courtroom exits become quieter. Adults process their futures not with guessing but with confirmed lineage. The child, even without awareness of this day, receives the gift of factual belonging. Thus, the courtroom that once held anxiety, conflict, and uncertainty now holds resolution. The truth, having spoken through DNA and judicial voice, is no longer debatable. It becomes the permanent record of identity, the anchor of parental responsibility, and the conclusion to emotional speculation. In this place, the balance between law and humanity is not theoretical. It is lived, finalized, and recorded under oath.